In this episode, we discuss why India's summer has been unusually mild this year and the impact it is likely going to have. We also talk about Kannada author Banu Mushtaq winning the prestigious International Booker Prize. But first, we talk about a troubling series of deaths linked to the mismanagement at Ranthambore Tiger Reserve.
Hi, I'm Ichha Sharma and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express News Show.
In less than a month, 2 people have been killed by a tiger at the renowned Ranthambore National Park. Back in April, a 7-year-old boy was mauled to death, and this time it was a 40-year-old forest ranger who fell prey to the big cat. What's especially concerning is that according to experts, the blame lies with the park staff, who they say made a series of thoughtless interventions and oversights. These included habituating the tiger to live baits and luring it dangerously close to a popular tourist zone. To tell us more about these concerns and what led to these deaths in Ranthambore, my colleague Shashank Bhargava speaks to the Indian Express's Jay Mazoomdar.
Jay, before we talk about what went wrong and what the staff were doing, could you talk about how common such deaths are inside a tiger reserve like this?
They're quite rare, but they happen from time to time. But given the tiger number and the number of people who are sharing space most of the time, so in that sense, they're quite rare. We have usually not more than a couple of cases each year. But sometimes when a particular tiger behaves unnaturally, then we have a succession of events, and then it becomes important to intervene in time to stop further damage.
And we understand that both these deaths happened very close to each other location-wise. And based on what you've written and what experts are saying, it seems like this happened partly because of the staff's action and partly due to the expectations that tourists and animal lovers have from them. So can you explain what exactly was going on here and how it's connected to these deaths?
So what is happening is that when people go on a safari to spot a tiger, they go to particular places. I mean, tigers are available pretty much across the country, barring few pockets. There are 9 to 10 major tiger states, and there are many reserves, over 40, 50 now. But in terms of tourism, we tend to see that people crowd a handful of reserves which are known for the high probability of tiger sighting.
Right, and in that sense, Ranthambore is perhaps the most popular one, right?
Yeah, Ranthambore would be one of the most popular ones, maybe with Tadova, Kanha, Corbett. In the south, we have Bandipur, Nagarhole. So in that sense, you will find that the prime tiger reserves, from the tourism point of view, they would be quite a handful. So this all leads to a situation when you have too many people coming to spot a few tigers, maybe 20, 30 at the most. And because of this repeated exposure, and many of these tiger tourists are quite regular to these reserves, and they develop an affection for the individual tigers. They name tigers. This is also a new trend. Earlier, we had tigers, as wild tigers. But now you have names, and with that, the direct association. And sometimes we have to remember that most people who have this fondness for wild animals, they also have the other side at home. I mean, they love pets, they have dogs, cats, etc. So there is, at some level, they approach this from that sense, that the way they would take care of their pets, they would love to take care of the wild tigers. So there is a sense of public pressure, because if you see a tiger slightly limping, or there's a scratch, or the tummy doesn't look full, so they expect that the forest authorities would intervene.
Right, and it's easy to imagine that, if an animal lover sees a tiger limping or a tiger which is particularly skinny, they would question the tiger reserve that, why aren't you taking care of your tigers? Why aren't you ensuring that they're well fed, for example?
Yeah, true. And this repeated intervention, be it in terms of medical treatment or in terms of feeding, because we have this thing that if a tiger is sick or injured or old, that it can't hunt anymore naturally. So we go in to offer food, live bait, we call it, though I will come to that later. It's not bait really, it's simply feeding, periodic feeding every week or every 10 days. It has many downsides, but primarily if you make a tiger habituated to live feed, it knows that at this time food will come in this way from this source, and this particular vehicle will bring the food, this particular man will offer me food. So the inhibition over time, it loses inhibition.
So basically what you're saying is that it is important that one, people are afraid of tigers, and two, that tigers are also fearful of humans because you don't want a situation where they're coming into contact with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if they approach each other fearlessly, then there can be only one consequence. I mean, you will need a gun to take on a tiger, because otherwise, if a tiger approaches you, then there is no contest. So what keeps peace as such is that they maintain distance, and they may not approach us always with an intention to harm or attack or kill, but it is not a good thing to be in close proximity of such a mighty predator. And the other thing that goes wrong in this case, that not only they approach us, the situation is compounded by the fact that they don't hunt. So they stop hunting when they get food.
Right, and in this case, the tiger that was being fed was Arrowhead. And the problem began when back in 2023, she was spotted with a hip bone deformity. And at that time, she had been replaced from her main habitat, and she also had 3 cubs to take care of. So the forest department, we understand, started providing her with live buffalo baits. And so then even the cubs basically never learned to hunt, and they were just relying on this feed for about 2 years. And providing bait is something you'd expect to happen in a zoo, right? But not in a tiger reserve. The whole idea of a reserve is that you get to see tigers in their natural habitat and not in a controlled or a caged environment. So the tiger should be allowed to live the way it would in the wild.
Yeah, true. And I would imagine that the forest staff, they would not go to such length to give personal care to individual tigers unless there is some pressure on them. And as I mentioned before, that the way social media moves, and now, I mean, if you look back 10, 15 years back, it was not like this. But now almost daily, you have these reports of tiger sighting on social media. People who are going on safari, they are coming out and posting photographs, and they're writing that this tiger we spotted with some scratch, another tiger was limping, this tiger looks emaciated. So something should be done about it. And these people are, many of them they have big followings, they are opinion makers, and they are well connected, so they can influence such minor policies at some level. And then the forest staff on the ground, they get instruction that do something about it. Can you help? So feeding as such, it's completely uncalled for, because there are protocols of Project Tiger, National Tiger Conservation Authority, which says that we should never feed a wild tiger because it doesn't need to be fed. If it can't hunt, it should make space for those that can hunt. That's how it works. The only exception which sometimes is allowed is that if you have a tigress with small cubs, and for some reason the tigress has some injury or something, then you may assist it for a very short period of time so that it can bounce back and the cubs survive. But that too, experts say that maybe for a period of 2 months, 10 weeks, beyond that, it becomes very counterproductive, because then the tigress would depend on delivered food and the cubs would get accustomed to it. And that's more dangerous than the tigress getting accustomed, because the tigress is of a particular age. It knows how to hunt. So for it to give up hunting may not be an obvious probability. But the cubs that grow on delivered food, live baits, they will not grow up to be wild tigers. They will become raised tigers. And a raised tiger in the wild has no future.
Right. And Jay, the other concerning part about this entire thing was that they were giving this live feed very close to where the tourists come to see the tigers, right?
Yes. As we enter the forest, there is an ancient gate from the days of the royals, and that gate has a forest camp where some guards sit and they check these vehicles, their papers, and then there is a newly built public toilet for the tourists, and then there are a couple of small rooms adjacent to it. So this is a place where at any given time you would have about 100 people, sometimes more, during the day. And on some days when there is a big religious event like Ganesh Chaturthi, it's a Ganesh temple, so then there's a bigger crowd. Now a tiger is on the move, so you can't bring the bait from very far. If you spot the tigress, then you have to quickly get the bait to her. So for that, they would have to stock it somewhere close by. And inside the forest, there isn't any pen or something. So they used one of those small rooms to keep the buffalo calf. And behind closed doors, obviously, but the animal would grunt, would snort, and it smell. So the presence was known to the tigers in the area, and they would often come. So they learned to associate that spot with food. So these associations over time created a situation when you have tigers very close, waiting, I won't say all day, but for long hours, almost every day. And so this was something waiting to happen, as you have reported, and experts have warned them also in the past. But probably they did not expect it to go wrong in such a way.
And even after that 7-year-old boy was mauled to death, there were concerns which were raised, but apparently nothing much was done about it. And the forest department now will really have to make some big changes. But the question is, what can be done about this tiger now?
See, in this case, the only option is to remove the tigress. And removing a wild tiger to confinement, any kind of confinement, is again a big emotive issue. In the past, we have seen that after repeated man-killing, another Ranthambore tiger was shifted to a zoo, and then there was a huge protest on social media, on the street. There was a candlelight vigils. So sometimes the forest staff is also in a fix, and they just try to kick the can down the road, because if they do something, they are criticized. If they don't, they're also criticized. But in this process, we are creating a situation when the tiger's goodwill, that is not among the tourists only. It's the local population where the tiger must retain its goodwill. I mean, if they don't feel safe with the tiger population as such, then there is a problem. And such cases don't do much to instill confidence, because this boy who was killed and the repercussions that followed was very strong. The forest officials had to douse the resentment over days. And now with this case, it has become even bigger problem, as it involves the safety of the staff who have to work inside forest and often on foot.
In an ideal scenario, the management and the staff wouldn't give in to public pressure. They would just follow the rules. But it seems that the people who come to see the tigers, their love and affection for the animal is actually getting in the way not just of human safety, but also the safety of the tigers themselves, right?
Yeah, true. And the explanation offered in most of these cases, like in this case also, I have seen some posts where people say that the tiger is not at fault, and people shouldn't have approached it so closely, and there should not be any crowd inside the tiger reserve. All these are partially correct. And in this case, to be frank, the tiger is not at fault. It was born from the very early days. It was exposed to live baits. It's not the tiger's fault. It was exposed to live baits and it grew up like that. But right now, it's not. I mean, the lessons one must learn is that you should not do it again. But in this case, it has been done. I mean, now there is no way to undo it. These tigers can't be pushed back to natural ways. So the only option is to remove it and take it somewhere where it will be safe and people will be safe. So it's in the tiger's interest that this fragile harmony, which we have seen is very possible to maintain, is maintained.
And next we take a look at this year's summer, which has been notably cooler. So far, India's summer this year has been uncharacteristically mild, with fewer heat waves and more widespread rain than usual.
As we approach the intense summer months from March to May 2025, the IMD predictions show that most of India will be facing above normal heat wave temperatures.
India has been hit by heat wave early this year, and India's Met Department says the coming summer could be extreme. While Goa and Maharashtra faced heat wave in the month of February, making it the hottest month in 125 years.
India's Delhi has fast-forwarded straight into peak summer this year. What's usually reserved for the sweltering months of May and early June has already gripped the capital in early April. With dry winds...
This month, usually one of the hottest, saw just a single day of heatwave conditions and only in a few parts of southwest Rajasthan. In most other places, rain brought cooler weather, especially in states like Madhya Pradesh, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Odisha. In fact, the Indian Meteorological Department also observed below normal nighttime temperatures in parts of East and Central India. In this segment, the Indian Express's Anjali Marar breaks down how different regions are being affected and what this unusual weather means for the country. Anjali, could you start by telling us what makes this year's summer different from what we usually expect?
So for anybody, a typical summer is heat waves, very high temperatures, sweltering heat, inability to step out the house during certain hours as the government would request people to stay indoors, drinking a lot of water, and overall very uncomfortable heat. But if one were to observe the present summer, it has been quite different in many parts of the country. So the temperatures have by and large remained within the normal range, or the spikes have been really occasional. There has been rainfall intermittent happening here and there, thunderstorms happening. So it is a very atypical summer season so far in a majority geographical regions of the country. And in particular in the southern peninsula, where rainfall has been consistently occurring with certain intervals, which is why the episodes of heat waves, even if they were heat wave events, for example, in parts of Vidarbha in Maharashtra or Gujarat or Rajasthan, they were very short events and the temperatures were not in a record-breaking ranges. All of this is making the summer of 2025 unlike the usual summers which we are used to experiencing, at least in the recent years.
Right, and Anjali, as you mentioned that the summer has been atypical. So can you talk to us about the events that have led up to these weather changes we are seeing right now?
So the India Meteorological Department is citing two main reasons for why the summer has seen so much of rainfall and the temperatures have remained normal or below normal. One of them is the recurrent passing of western disturbances. So western disturbances are basically streams of wind bands which originate from the Mediterranean Sea in the west and they are moving towards the east. So every time these streams pass, what they do is they bring in some rainfall or snowfall, of course, in the higher reaches or higher altitudes. And usually western disturbances are most significant during the winter season, which is why you have snowfall in parts of Jammu Kashmir or Himachal, and they become less significant in the other seasons. But this year, the western disturbances in March, April, and even May, the streams have been strong enough to penetrate and cause significant weather. And when I say cause significant weather, it has been in the form of rainfall. So one of the reasons is the frequent western disturbances. The second reason which the IMD attributes is the continuous pumping in of moisture from both the Arabian Sea on the west and the Bay of Bengal on the east. So when you have moisture incursion or moisture being pumped into the mainland, and you have these western disturbances passing from west to east. So there is kind of a wind interaction. So moist winds and wind interaction between these two systems, which is then bringing a lot of rainfall over the southern peninsula. So overall, one can say that there were favorable conditions in the atmosphere and the oceans, which were leading to rainfall from time to time over majority parts of India.
And so how do these changes, impact day-to-day life? Like, what are the immediate implications of this unseasonal moderation?
Well, I would not want to term it as unseasonal because India does benefit from pre-monsoon showers, and some of the regions where pre-monsoon showers are common is the southern peninsula. What is unusual is the amount or the quantum of pre-monsoon showers which the country has benefited. So if you think about the immediate effect would be on agriculture, of course, because usually this is the time when farmers are nearing their harvest from the Rabi season or the winter season. So if the crops are in a mature stage or if the crops are nearing the harvest, and sudden pounding of rainfall will of course affect their growth and of course affect the yield towards the end of it. So one impact would be on agriculture, especially on those crops which are in the mature stages. In the second one, I would say is the energy or energy consumption. So imagine in March and April when the heat was building up and the energy consumption was slowly peaking and the production was also on the higher side. But when there are these rainfall or when there is a sudden drop in temperatures, naturally the demand for electricity, in demand for power will also see a slump. So that I believe also would have had an impact as one of another impact of this sudden changes in the weather that we are observing on a day-to-day basis or weekly basis. In addition to that, health, we can also speak about health. Given that the daytime it's pretty warm or humid and there's temperature building up, and soon after the late afternoon or towards the evening, then there is thunderstorms. So one can imagine the amount of variation in the temperatures that the body has to undergo. Just citing an example, suppose there is an event of thunderstorm in any part of the city, any part of the country that happens. The Indian Meteorological Department says that the following days or the following day, the maximum temperatures can drop as high as 5 to 7 degrees. So supposing we were at 40 degrees today, tomorrow following a thunderstorm event, the maximum temperature can drop to 33, 34. So this is the variation which the human body has to take or the plants have to take. So there are chances that one may fall ill because of such variations in the temperatures.
Right. And Anjali, is there a common misconception that, people have when they hear that this summer has been cooler?
Yes. So by cooler summer, I would want to clarify here that it is not that the summer is absent or the heat is not there or temperatures are not high. No, that's not the message here. The point I'm trying to drive is if we have seen heat wave events or episodes more frequently or prolonged heat wave conditions wherein it could last for over a week or close to 10 days, those heat waves or those extended heat events have been largely missing this year. Of course, that doesn't mean that there weren't heat waves. Of course, April, there were heat wave episodes experienced in Odisha, parts of Vidarbha and Maharashtra, Gujarat, even Jammu and Kashmir. The plains of Jammu had heat wave occasions. So it is not to say that the summer is without, hot temperatures, but the extent of heat or the episodes of heat waves have been limited or have been almost nil, especially in May. As we speak today, on the 21st of May, only 3 days of heat wave days have been recorded anywhere in the country, and this was after a long gap. So the first heat wave episode which concluded on May 1st, and it is only over the past 2 days, that is post May 19th, when some amount of heat wave warnings have been issued, and especially limited to parts of Rajasthan, Delhi. So this is not how a May would be otherwise for the core heat wave zone spanning from West Bengal all the way to Gujarat. So by a cooler summer, I would simply want to put it as the amount of heat wave days and the temperatures both have been below normal.
And lastly, Anjali, what can we expect next in this weather pattern? Like, what are the predictions for the rest of the summer?
So as per the latest forecast from the IMD, the southwest monsoon is almost at its doorstep, and another 3 or 4 days, the onset should be happening over Kerala, which means that the rainfall activity will here on pick up in intensity in the southern peninsula. However, over the northern parts of India or northwest parts of India, the Met Department has said that there are going to be heat wave episodes likely to develop towards the end of the month. Anyways, North India receives monsoon well into June or late June or early July. So the summer is not over for many parts of the country. But yes, it is almost time for the southwest monsoon to make an onset over the country. So now the weather is beginning to enter the transition phase from summer to the monsoon season.
And in the end, we shift our focus to the world of literature, where a Kannada short story collection has been awarded the 2025 International Booker Prize in London. This was Banu Mushtaq's short story collection Heart Lamp, published earlier this year and translated into English by Deepa Bhashti.
This moment feels like 1,000 fire files lighting up a single sky, brief, brilliant, and utterly collective. The
collection features stories written over a span of 30 years and focuses on the everyday experiences of Muslim women in South India. Mushtaq, who is a practicing lawyer and women's rights activist in Karnataka, is the second Kannada writer to receive recognition from the Booker Prize after U.R. Ananthamurthy in 2013. Her collection was selected for its exploration of religion, politics, and society-shaped women's lives. Upon winning, Mushtaq stated, quote, "My stories are about women, how religion, society, and politics demand unquestioning obedience from them, and in doing so inflict inhuman cruelty upon them, turning them into mere subordinates." Unquote. The book, as he mentioned, was translated by Deepa Bhashti, who became the first Indian translator to win the Booker Prize. She previously won the English Pen Translates Award and has translated other works from Kannada, including The Same Village, The Same Tree by Kota Shivarama Karanth, and Fame's Game by Kodagina Gaurama. And here's what she said upon receiving the prize.
What a win this is for my beautiful language. ಜೇನಿನ ಹೊಳೆಯೋ ಹಾಲಿನ ಮಳೆಯೋ ಸುಧೆಯೋ ಕನ್ನಡ ಸವಿ ನುಡಿಯೋ goes a song in Kannada. It calls the Kannada language a river of honey, a rain of milk, and compares it to sweet ambrosia. Kannada is one of the oldest languages on earth, and I'm ecstatic that this will hopefully lead to a greater interest in reading and writing and translating more and from the language. And
Max Porter, chair of the 2025 judging panel, stated that Heart Lamp introduced new forms of expression in English translation and addressed themes including reproductive rights, caste and power. Mushtaq's win follows that of Geetanjali Shree, another Indian who won the prize in 2022 for her novel Tomb of Sand.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank Bhargava and me, Ichha Sharma. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.